Tonight we have a very peculiar story to share. I must warn you, though, that the events and details are not for the faint of heart. If you are scared, turn back now, change the station, and return to the comforts of warm reality. But if you're like the rest of us, and curiosity has already sneered you, the mere whispers of intrigue have crept into your mind, fantasizing of the horrors that this tale will tell. So let us sit by candlelight, my friends, as we, from the night parable, share tonight a story of Somnia.
Morning, Wingtown. Today's news: a mass murderer is still at large. Authorities are asking the public for any news on the killer, yet they have not even given the killer a name. Pretty strange if you ask me. In other news, Detective Emil Oslo still under fire. A raggedy voice from within an old radio said before a callous hand cut off the audio. Enough of that crap, says a stocky man with a disheveled haircut. I got enough shit on my plate as it is, he continued, as he popped 2 pills into his mouth and swallowed. Still taking them? The young lady with freckles and fair brown hair says as she pours the man some freshly brewed black coffee. Sure am. It's the only thing that keeps me awake these days, Ashlyn, he responded, rattling his pill bottle and placing it back into his brown coat. You ever try to sleep, Emil? No. I hardly ever sleep anymore. I'm always after that fucking killer on the radio. Sleep is only a pigment of the imagination to me. A goddamn luxury. Well, take some time off for once, you know. Otherwise you'd give the killer an easier means to take you out. What do you mean? You're exhausted, tired, and the only thing keeping you awake, if you can even call it that, are those pills you're taking. If I rest even for a second, he wins. End of story. What if he already won? No. As long as I'm standing, they'll never have that chance. How can you even be so sure, Emil? I doubt you ever get anything short of 2 hours of sleep. Ashlyn mutters something under her breath as she looks around, smiling at an old man who sits on a stool 2 seats away from Emil. Well, for one, you honestly look like shit, Emil. Yeah? Well, you don't look that great either, Ursula. What did you just say to me, you mop-faced fuck? I'm just teasing, Ashlyn. Jesus, relax, would you? Relax. You better watch your mouth. Otherwise, I'll report your fat ass to the killer you've been trying to catch the entire time. Relax. Stop saying that I'm the killer before you give someone a heart attack. You're the killer? Get away from me. Get away. You're the killer. Or finally questions an old man sitting next to him as he quickly gets up. No, I'm not the killer, Arnie. Just sit back down, Emil says, as he beckons the old man back to his seat. Emil looks back to Ashlyn, looking deep into her beautiful brown eyes. She begins tapping at a glass cup as she smiles at him. She was always beautiful and majestic, in the way her red checkered shirt complements her body. Not a day goes by where she isn't the highlight of Emil's morning. Emil smiles back as a thought crosses his mind. Ashlyn, sometimes I like to. Ashlyn says something back to him, but her response is suddenly drowned out by loud popping sounds followed by a rush of screams. The patrons inside this well-kept diner all turn their heads towards the commotion from outside. Everyone, please get down and stay inside. You there, call the police, Emil commanded as he threw his brown coat onto a nearby booth and pulled out his pistol. Jesus, it's always something, but at least I'm nearby, Emil said to himself as he hurried across the sunlit pavement to MacArthur's Grocers. As Emil entered the store, countless bodies lay strewn across the floor. Pristine windows and glossy floors that Mr. MacArthur would spend hours detailing to perfection were now shattered and covered in blood. Stocked shelves and fresh produce lay battered and thrown all across the canvas of this gruesome scene. A crazed man, brandishing a pistol and a cleaver in his hands, stood over a lifeless body. Emil slowly approached the unaware man from behind as he aimed his jet-black pistol at him. Freeze, you son of a bitch. WPD, drop your weapons and get on the ground nice and slow, commanded Emil with authority. Years on the force prepared him for every situation, but for this one, something felt odd and familiar. Get on the ground, Emil continued forcefully, as he sternly aimed his pistol at the man with cold precision. The man turned and looked at Emil with blank eyes, as he then proceeded to continue to hack and chop at the body of one of his victims. The man's bloodied and pale body twitched with every chop of the crazed man's cleaver. Emil recognized the body of the man that lay there on the ground. The expensive brown suit, checkered black tie, and of course the bushy gray beard, all belonging to Mr. MacArthur. "Stop, asshole! Drop the weapons or I will shoot," yelled Emil as he pulled back the hammer on his pistol, readying to shoot the man. "Do not test me." Just then, the man stopped chopping at the body, spun around and faced towards Emil. With bloodshot eyes, he gritted his teeth and held his cleaver in his hand forcefully. Blood oozed from his clenched fist that gripped the handle. The crazed man looked straight through Emil as he slowly approached. "I recognize you. You're that comedian who's all over the news recently. You got blacklisted all over the internet for pissing yourself on stage. I guess it finally got to you, huh?" Emil said coldly at the comedian. The man continued to walk slowly. "I'm warning you, pal. Not one more step," Emil yelled coarsely. The man quickly flung his arm upwards and fired a shot at Emil, hitting him in the shoulder. Emil fired back at the man, but with inhuman speed, the man dodged backwards towards the heart of the store. "Fuck!" Emil exclaimed, grabbing at his arm as the scarlet blood stained his once white shirt. The comedian fired back at Emil as he ran towards a worn, double-jointed door. Emil chased right behind him, throwing himself through the door with his weapon drawn. A quarter 3 bullets were drawn and fired towards Emil as he quickly took cover. He peeked behind a large wooden box as the comedian continued to empty his clip at Emil. Emil crouched behind a row of boxes as he slyly made his way towards the man's position. "You better stop while you still have the chance, pal," Emil exclaimed towards the comedian. His voice echoed throughout the musty room. Emil waited patiently for his chance as the man continued to fire. A low mechanical click resonated from the pistol as Emil jolted from his position towards the comedian. Grabbing a can of beans that lay on the ground, Emil launched it, hitting the man square in the face. He grunted and covered his face as Emil threw himself at him. The pair were sent careening to the ground as Emil got on top of the man, bludgeoning him with his fist. The comedian grabbed a pair of scissors from the ground and stabbed him in the arm as he threw him off. Blood dripped from Emil's arm as he struggled against the comedian. He saw a hammer laying nearby and managed to grab it, quickly hitting the comedian in the head. And with a loud thud, the comedian fell to the ground in pain. "You're under arrest, you bastard," Emil exhaustedly said, while he handcuffed the comedian. Emil walked the man to the front of the store, where 2 police cars waited outside. 3 officers, followed by a rather plump man, ran up to Emil and the comedian. "Holy shit! You got the son of a bitch!" exclaimed a chubby officer with a scruffy, patchy beard. Coffee stains and food crumbs lay like a mosaic on his light blue uniform as he breathed quite heavily. "The only thing you're catching is diabetes if you keep eating like that," said a young ginger man as he laughed and brushed the crumbs from his shirt. The chubby officer laughed as he smacked himself in the stomach. "Don't worry, we'll take him," said one of the other 2 officers. "Wait," said the comedian weakly. He turned to face Emil. "Let me talk to you, please." Sticky blood spilled from his mouth as he made his plea. Emil nodded towards the other officers as they all walked away to their nearby police cars. "What do you want? A lawyer? There's nothing, literally nobody, who can save your ass from what you fucking did," Emil said without hesitation. "I don't remember anything," said the comedian faintly. "I remember waking up this morning, checking for a gig or something, and then heading to that diner to go eat. I got up and left, and as soon as I stepped outside, I don't recall anything else. I just remember blood. Lots of blood." Emil stared at the man right in his eyes as the comedian made his statement. His eyes pulled with tears as they fell down his bloody and bruised face. For Emil, he looked past the scared and battered face of the man who stood before him. And despite everything, Emil somehow knew that he was telling the truth. Emil looked up at 2 of the officers and they rushed over to them. They took him, read him his rights, and threw him into the back of a squad car. One of the men forced the comedian's head in, brutally smacking his head against the frame of the car door. With blaring red and blue lights, the vehicle peeled off and down the street. "Damn, Emil, you always look like shit," said the chubby officer as he looked Emil up and down. "I'd make fun of you, but I don't want to sugarcoat it, because you'd probably eat that too," Emil retorted as he jabbed the chubby officer in the gut. The ginger officer laughed at the chubby officer as the 2 made their way back to the patrol car. "Hey, you want us to take you to the hospital?" asked the ginger officer. "No, it's okay. I'll do it after I pay for my food. Thanks, though," Emil responded as he made his way back into the diner. He made his way over to the counter and leaned on its smooth surface. The smell of fresh coffee and half-burnt sausage singed his nose as he took a deep breath. A pair of familiar eyes met Emil's as he sat down on the counter. The tail of his coat draped over the back of the stool as he pulled open his brown coat and took out his pills. He stared at them for a bit before a searing migraine split across his skull. Emil shook 2 pills out of the container, popped them in his mouth and swallowed. A beautiful fragrance floated towards Emil as he looked up. "Someday, huh, Emil?" Ashlyn asked, chuckling a bit. Her black hair dangled over one eye as she leaned in to pour him a cup of freshly brewed tea. "Yeah, another day in paradise," Emil responded as he made a small cheer with the cup and drank. He unfolded the newspaper and began skimming through the headlines, looking over random ads and the newest line of basketball shoes. He stopped and looked at a bold headline that read, "Mass murderer still at large." And right below that in small print read, "Detective Emil Oslo under fire for him." "Fucking tabloids," Emil said, throwing the newsprint to the side. "You ever think you'll catch up to them?" Ashlyn asked as she wiped out the counter. "I have to. It's the only thing that keeps me up these days." "You should try to get some sleep sometime." "No, I can hardly get any sleep anymore. I'm always after them fucking killing in the paper. And sleep? It's a goddamn luxury." "Well, get some time off when you can. Otherwise, you'd make everything so much easier." "What do you mean?" Emil's ears perked up. "What did you just say?" "Listen, you're exhausted, tired, and the only thing keeping you up, if you can even call it that, are those fucking pills you're taking." No. "What did you just say, Ashlyn?" Bill sat up. "I just said to take off your coat. It'd make you relax easier." An old man walks into the diner, takes a seat from Emil. He signals for coffee towards the waiters. Ashlyn smiles and looks at him as he turns back to Emil. "All I'm saying is if you rest for even a second, she wins. End of story," Ashlyn continued. "Can I have some coffee and scones?" asked the old man aloud. "And what if they already won?" Emil asked impatiently. "Wait, why did you say she? The killer is female?" "There you go with your theories again," Ashlyn laughs to herself. "We don't know if the killer is a male or a female. It could be a woman for all we know, and she could be kicking her ass the entire time." "My scones, please," the old man asks. "No. As long as I'm standing, I'll never let that happen." "I might be old, but I'm not senile," the old man says angrily. He starts to get up. "How can you be so sure, Emil? What if they already have?" Emil looks down at the glass of clean table for a moment in thought. "Relax, Emil. I'm just messing with you," she says, playing to Emil. Emil looks back to Ashlyn, looking deep into her beautiful blue eyes as she stares back. She begins tapping at a glass cup as she smiles at him. She's always beautiful and majestic looking, and the way her yellow striped blouse complements her body. Not a day goes by where she isn't the highlight of Emil's day. Emil's smile drops as he looks away. A thought crosses his mind. "Ashlyn, sometimes," Emil begins. "Make up killers in my mind," Ashlyn says, as her smile fades from her face. She sets the glass on the table and begins to walk away. The hair on Emil's neck stands up. "Wait, you're the killer. You're the fucking killer, Ashlyn?" Emil stands up quickly as he hits the table. Ashlyn stops as she slowly turns around and smiles. She begins to walk away again. "Stop, you shit!" Emil yells as he turns and runs out of his seat. But in doing so, he fails to see the old man who had gotten up out of his chair. They both fall hard to the tile floor. The man's skull hits the side of the counter. Emil stands up quickly, pulling his pistol out of his coat and aims it at Ashlyn. "It was you the entire time? You out of all people?" Tears stream down Emil's face as he points the pistol at Ashlyn. Ashlyn's unfazed as she turns and faces towards Emil. "You're absolutely pathetic, Emil. A washed-up detective with nothing to his name. Goddamn years have gone by, and you still haven't gotten any closer to finding the killer." She screams at Emil as she slowly walks towards him. "Stop, Ashlyn!" Emil commands as his trembling hand points the pistol. "I've been staring you in the face this entire time, like a house on fire, and still you haven't caught on. Maybe the killer wanted to be caught just so they could be done with your bullshit. A pathetic, lonely man like you has wasted away his entire life on nothing. Please stop. Stop, you bitch," Emil says, pulling back the hammer. "You're nothing. Fucking nothing, Emil. Nothing without me. You useless piece of Voices grow silent as Emil stares back into the abyss that is Ashlyn's eyes. He smiles at her and laughs as her body drops to the floor. Ashlyn, sometimes I like to make up killers in my head, he laughs to himself. Just then, a brownie cop and a ginger cop rushed into the diner. Freeze, you son of a bitch, the brownie cop yells to Emil. Look, I finally got the killer. It's her, it's Ashlyn. Ashlyn is the killer. The two cops look absolutely horrified at the sight. The ginger cop turns and pukes on the ground before turning back to Emil and pointing his weapon at him. You fucking monster. We finally got you. Drop the gun, put your hands behind your head, get down on the ground, yells out the brownie cop. What are you talking about? Emil began. The killer was right there on the ground. After all this time, I finally got her. That hex of a bitch is Ashlyn. Stop playing games with me, asshole. Who the hell is Ashlyn? That's Sarah. My sister Sarah, you bastard. Exclaims the brownie cop shakingly. No, she's right there. Emil turns slowly as he looks around. The limp, lifeless body of an elderly man lay on the ground by the bloody counter. His head lay motionless at the foot of the stools. A grotesque mangled blood and guts, held together by pieces of brown suit, were strung out in a booth by the door. The body of a man sat slouched in the chair in the corner, his head bashed in all over in the scarlet counter. A blood-stained hammer sat discarded next to his body. Emil sees the body of Ashlyn, but the person he sees is different now. Her hair is dirty blonde with pale, lifeless hazel eyes. The tag on her chest read, Sarah.
Hey Sarah, it's me. I know I haven't been much of a brother lately, but being a cop ain't too bad. I get to arrest the bad guys and bring justice to the old town. I know I haven't seen you in a couple years, and the other day I stopped by to see you, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Anyway, I just want to let you know that I still love you. I really love you, sis. And I'd love to get you out of that diner for once. It's like you're always glued to that place. So, me and my partner are going out that way, and I really hope I can see you again. Anyway, I love you, Sarah.